Alright, so here to talk about my rig. That's just my clean tone, so there's literally nothing down. So if I'm looking down my pedal board down here, so we have literally just the Ocean11 on. Let's turn that off just to show you a complete dry signal. Alright, that's just the amp reverb. What we're going to do is we're going to introduce just the wet signal. So what I'm going to do is turn up my 5mm so you can hear just that. Got a little bit of a boost. I'm going to dial it back to equilibrium here. Alright, that's good. Put the Oceans back on. Kind of got a little springy reverb going on right there. And that's usually like my always on setup. So right now, with just the Oceans11 and 5mm, this is what the clean tone sounds like. Alright, so that's that. So let's start with Fuzz. So this is my LittleRiverCustoms Fuzz here. That's rolling the volume all the way down. Out there. Alright, and now rolling it up. Alright, so that's that at a low volume, so just mess around with that and the wah. That's adding the wah in. Let's add the Octaver in a little bit. Alright, now full bore. Alright, so like my Stevie tones, what I do is I use the tube screamer side of the Duelist normally. Alright, if I want kind of like that cold shot, what I do is I use my TR7 here and got the Alright, so that's the TS side, so let's try the blues breaker side. So That side. And what I usually use the Timmy on the Strat is just kind of more amp. So if I'm already kind of use that as my lead boost just for the Duelist. It's kind of the opposite for the Telly. So if I switch guitars, which I'm not going to do for sakes of time here, but that's usually like my always on tone. So this is just a tune. Just on the edge of breakup. All right, so that's usually just my drive section. But if I want to go kind of full bore metal, we're gonna use this guy. But that's not really the setup for the Strat. That's usually for my heavier stuff that I'm normally doing. Alright, so let's talk modulation. Modulation would be starting with the TR7, which has kind of all your swirly sound. So that's really kind of the setup I want to look at today. Kind of go through the change knob on it right here. I want to kind of A-B that a little bit with the Oceans11. So it's got a trim setting. Right now it's on the spring. Alright, so we're going to go to the trim setting. What I like to do is the opto and the bias trim on the TR7. And then on the Oceans, we're going to just a harmonic trim. So this is what the Oceans sound like. Alright, so that's that sound, and we're doing the TR7. That's got a little bit of a reverb in it, so that's what's really built in that engine. On the bias trim, on the TR7, we'll compare that. So this is the Oceans. Alright, so, and then we're going to do the duo trim, which is a chop split, so. That's kind of funky. So I use the Rotary when I do my SRV tones. So this is the Leslie sound. All right, and then we got the Vibe, which I like to do. So smooth. So I usually like to couple that with, you know, like another drive. Smooth. So that's kind of like the setting I like to use a lot on that pedal. So between the Vibe and the Rotary, those get used a lot. Sometimes I move to a trim if I'm doing more of a like the spaghetti western and that kind of stuff. I usually use the trim on the Hardwire, not on the Oceans. We're gonna jump back over to the spring on the Oceans. We'll cut the vibe off here. All right, and then we'll talk about the L caps. So the L caps, usually my that's usually like my tape repeat. And that's closer to my infinite setting. So normally what I do is if I'm playing ambient stuff and I need to go a little longer or a little shorter, I can just kind of and then toe tweak it to infinity. So that's kind of what I use there. So that's usually my modulation. This is more or less kind of like my core Strat setup. I'll talk about my Tele setup next. Alright, so this is my Tele setup. So with this setup, this is just the clean signal of both the HotRodDeluxe and the extension cab. Alright, so that's that. So this is actually just my Tele setup. So a lot of this is from the middle position right here. That's my neck and my bridge. So it's just a three-way, but it is on strap body with the P90. It's probably gonna throw you off, but alright, so a lot of what I use, this is usually on all the time. So we're talking about the Timmy. The Timmy is usually like my core tone with this. So what I like to do for my drive is naturally just the blues breaker. Alright, so that's my drive setup. This is usually what I'm staying on when I'm on the most of the blues stuff, lower gains, that kind of thing. Alright, so that's kind of my core drive sound. Not a whole lot to say about that other than I use this with delay, so setup when it comes to the ambient textures and everything. Sometimes like throwing that hymnal kind of sound with the vibe. And on the neck. basically like my whole setup when it comes to my guitar rig. So thanks for joining. Like and subscribe.